What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to yet another Pay-Per-Viewpoint podcast coming to you from the Smark Out Moment Smack Talk podcast. We are breaking down WrestleMania 38 Night 1 right now, which just ended a few moments ago. We got a lot to talk about. A lot happened on this card. Some good, some bad, some stuff in between. So we want you to join us in for this. Tell us what you liked, what you didn't like. Leave comments below on the YouTube side of things. If you are listening elsewhere, leave a comment wherever you can. Send us a tweet. Do something in the live chat if you're joining us live. I see the Marquise is here. I see the Crispus here. I see Peter's here. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this show. We've got some good stuff that we're going to be talking about here. So I'm kind of fired up a little bit. I see Adam's now in the chat as well. What's up, everybody? There's Marco. There's Frankie. All right, we're getting the whole party going on here. This is awesome. I am your host, as always, Tony Bango. Joining me, as always, are Callum Wiggins.
I'm still awake.
And Robert T. Felice.
I'm very happy to report that I'm very happy.
I am more awake now than I was earlier when we were talking about Stand and Deliver, funny enough. So that's a good sign, right? How you guys feeling?
I feel great. I really have to say there were some hiccups, but thankfully they all seemed to get out of the way early. And it was a good 3 hours.
Once again, WrestleMania Night 1 has delivered in a very positive way. And so we should take solace in that before the inevitable come down of Night 2. But we'll wait and see on that front. But yeah, if last year's an indication, that seems to be the pattern they're doing. But I thought Night 1 was an overwhelming success.
How's everybody in the chat feeling tonight? I mean, we got a couple things here. Adrenaline, stupendous. There's a poor Callum. No more 5-hour shows for fuck's sake. The second half of the show was definitely great. The show was kind of good. Great show. Only big complaint was really the Corbin McIntyre match. Yeah, the second half was better. I'm kind of going to echo the same sort of thing. The second half, in a lot of ways, was better. There's one, I was going to say big negative, but it really isn't that big of a negative, which is that one of the matches got cut. It's not that big
of a negative.
It's a bad thing in the sense that they wasted time with a bad angle setting up something that just became nothing and all that. But in the grand scheme of things, who's going to really remember anything like that? Do you really remember which people were involved in the match that was cut on WrestleMania 10? Yeah, Rob probably does.
Yeah, I do.
Do you remember?
I won't go through it now.
Who were the people? Tell us real quick.
1-2-3 Kid was involved. The Head Shrinkers, IRS, Bob Holly, Jeff Jarrett. It was a 10-man tag. I believe Tatanka was also involved.
We got to get you on one of those Sporkle quiz things and just like do the test of knowledge thing. Yeah, so as we're funneling in... Oh, you got a challenge going on. All right. Well, we have to put those two against each other.
Rob knows I know more about wrestling than he does.
That's right. How could I ever compete with him? He's British.
I mean, look at Revolutionary War. There was one competition that an American won.
I think that one of the best things we've done on this thing is us two trying to constantly name hardcore champions for about half an hour. It was wherever play the game that was.
That was good, yeah.
We need to do more of that stuff for sure. Maybe we'll do that, even like a random live play the game or something if we could figure that out sometime down the line. I don't know, maybe even next week for all we know. But yeah, keep the chat going. You guys chat it up with whatever it is, whether it's what we're talking about right now or if you want to do some little sidebars or something. We are going to break down everything here, including the kickoff, which was 2 hours of talking.
Yeah.
There's nothing to say about it. It's quite literally, they talked for 2 hours. I mean, I have notes that are just like, hey, the crowd popped big for the graphic of KO and they had no reaction for the Charlotte Flair Ronda Rousey thing. I really like the song of the Becky Lynch and Bianca Belair video package. If anybody knows what that is, let me know. Download that. What else do we got? Oh, I wrote F off with this TikTok kid. I don't know who the fuck that was.
Respect to them, respect to that TikTok kid and Jake Paul. They knew that they weren't liked and they played into it.
It's gotta feel so weird. It's like WWE invites you to something and they're like, hey, you must be popular right now with the kids and the youths and all that. Can you show up on WrestleMania? And they're like, oh, cool. Yeah, it's great. By the way, everybody's going to fucking hate you. So it's okay if you get booed. This little shit was just sort of like, oh man, that shit's whack. I used to do finishers, whatever. Yeah, he seems like a douche. But probably a nice kid. I don't know.
But other than that, like, this kickoff wasn't really much of anything.
It did not need to be 2 hours. And especially when we get to the point where it's like, okay, they end up cutting the New Day versus Ridge Holland and Sheamus. You couldn't have put that on there if you had 2 hours to do this.
Yeah, that's the only thing I have to say annoys me, is that they could have put that match on there.
Do you guys think that they're going to put that on the kickoff tomorrow? Or is it just
honestly don't.
Not?
Sheamus and Kofi have already reacted to being cut.
Oh, what did they say?
Well, Sheamus just put out a scissors emoji. Yeah, and Kofi said something more along the lines of, I'll just read the tweet here. To be in the business for an extended duration of time is to experience the highest of highs as well as the lowest of lows. Yes, it hurts, but we take it and we use it to propel us forward.
No, I mean, yeah, it's going to suck to have your match cut because you want to perform in front of all those people and you want to be on WrestleMania and all the other things that goes along with that. But this was just plagued. Everything that Ridge Holland and Sheamus seems to touch is just problematic these days. And if this would have been the actual match that was scheduled, the New Day as the trio against what Xavier Woods referred to as Butch, Botch, and Bitch, which I thought was great. If that would have been the case and that got cut, I'd be more upset about it. But for this show, it's like, this match didn't matter, you know? So I'm expecting that they are just going to have it on either Raw or SmackDown, and they're going to try to treat it like a big deal. Like, this match was originally scheduled for WrestleMania, and you're going to get it on SmackDown. Isn't that great, everyone? And then it'll be like,
so much was happening at Mania that we couldn't even do it.
It was too big for 2 nights. But as much as that's one of the negatives that I do have to say, it's one of those things where it's like, look, is it a negative that it happened and they couldn't plan this out ahead of time and they wasted 2 hours on a pre-show that could have gone to this match? Yeah. Is it something to be like a hill to die on? Absolutely not. And with the flow of the night, I think if they would have tried to shoehorn this in there, it would have been a bigger problem. So I'm not super annoyed about that. They don't do the shucky ducky quack quack graphic anymore. I'm annoyed about that. They did? I didn't see it.
They did it. They screwed it up on the first one. So on the second one, Booker T mentioned that the world title match tomorrow night would be the shucky ducky quack quack moment. And they had the graphic.
Oh, okay. So they botched the first one then, and I didn't see the second one. I did hear a great joke from Jerry the King Lawler, though. I heard you tested positive for the flower disease. You're a blooming idiot.
Oh God, that's.
I laughed. Caroline just looked at me like, "Did I miss something?" But then again, that's my sense of humor. Jake Paul's on there. They had this little girl named Peyton who was cosplaying as Rhea Ripley, and that was kind of cute.
That was adorable. That's what, like, that's one of those moments where I know it's cliche to say, but when you knock WWE for certain things, that's a moment where you can go, yeah, but it's also about this. And like that kid had a moment at WrestleMania, and that's super cool.
Yeah, I like that quite a bit. Titus O'Neil was botching. We're trying to remember the charity names. He's like, it's Texas Foods and stuff or whatever. Like,
it's the most stupendous 2 nights.
And then I gotta say, man, I did not like that America the Beautiful. Woof.
You know, like I said, the show started rough. Like, that wasn't the best America the Beautiful. Maybe Jesse James Decker will do a better job tomorrow night. I guess we'll see. And then we started with a weird tag match. Like,
Well, we didn't even get into that yet because we also had an intro with Mark Wahlberg.
Oh, right. But they put that on YouTube a couple days ago, so I saw that.
And then we had the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders. And I was sitting there thinking to myself, we just had 2 hours. And then now we're 10 minutes into the show. And all we've had is for 2 hours and 10 minutes, nothing's happened. And I was just like, this is kind of starting off bad, especially after hearing some country music. Did you guys ever hear of either of these two bands? By the way, this Jesse James Decker girl from Tomorrow and whoever did it tonight. I've never heard of these two.
I looked them up because, I like to know a little bit of something before I watch them perform on a show. And this guy's latest song is called Rolex on a Redneck. So that's everything you need to know about him. And the other one's just, some country music singer. And she's your standard brokenhearted kind of song. So good for them,
Not a thing I'm a fan of. Sorry, everybody who's into country music out there. I absolutely hate it. So, not speaking to me, not speaking my language. Any other thoughts you guys have on kickoff related content before we get into the first match? Highly doubt it, but just in case.
Jake Paul gonna also be a heel wrestler. That's all I can say. Is like, whatever you think about those two, whatever. Like, they get it.
Did you check out the kickoff, Callum?
He didn't.
Just double checking.
Yeah, I had it on mute until the first match started.
Well, the first match did get started. It was Rick Boogs kicking things off, which, in theory, it made sense. You start off with somebody who's going to pump up the crowd like that. And he and Shinsuke Nakamura fighting for the SmackDown Tag Team Championship. And not too long into the match, maybe about like the midway point or so, Boogs has one of the Usos up on his shoulders. One of the other ones jumps up, and he's going to essentially carry both of them on his shoulders, which we've seen him do some really impressive physical feats. And strong guy who's been doing a lot of things lately that have been proving himself to be like astonishing. But something just didn't go right, and he just buckles. And I'm thinking at first, okay, there's nothing to this. But he's kind of making a little bit more of like an actual visceral, like, kind of screams and stuff. And I'm like, oh no, now I'm starting to get worried. And we found out later on in the show, after he didn't come back into the match in any fashion and he was carted out. Actually, he was not carted out. He was carried out, which, at least one person on Twitter was like, why are you picking him up and doing that? Why don't you have a stretcher? That he tore his quad. So that really sucks for more than one reason. Number one, nobody wants to be injured. That's terrible. Number two, he doesn't even get to finish his first match at WrestleMania. Number three, I kind of think they might have been scheduled to win.
I believe so. Well, look, when you're sponsored by Mike's Hard Half and Half Lemonade Iced Tea, which is something they've never done before, I don't think, where like a specific act is sponsored, I assumed that they were going to win. So much so to where I thought that he was just selling the injury that they built the match on, where you could see in the vignettes where he's like, yeah, Peg Leg Pete, if you can beat him, then we'll give you a match. I thought that he was just selling, but clearly not. And it's unfortunate that, he got hurt. He's out for an undetermined amount of time now with surgery. And WrestleMania started off even more flat because you're like, oh no, what an omen. Guy's hurt in the first match of WrestleMania.
And like what's the opposite of like a serendipity of the moment? Like, it's just strange that
Snake bitten.
That's the way that this went down too, that he wasn't like he suffered like an arm injury or like an orbital bone injury or something like that. Anything would have been bad, obviously, because it still would have been an injury. But the fact that they did sell part of this feud on the idea of a fake injury to the leg, that leg, if I'm remembering correctly as well. And for that to happen is just kind of like, I don't know. That's double sucks, I guess you could say. I didn't think that they were going to be winning these titles until it came to them starting the show. Because I just assumed this was going to be one of the filler matches. The Usos would win. We'd move on. That kind of deal. But then I thought, if they're going to start this off and the heels are going to retain, then that's going to be kind of a downer. And lo and behold, it's not only a downer for that, but it's a downer for an injury. And I don't know what the timetable is for Boogs to return, but it's not going to be a week or anything like that. He's going to be out for quite a while with the torn quad. Like, I'm assuming probably we're looking around like the year mark. I don't know if there's any kind of like specifics about anything else that has been learned, but I'm sure we'll learn more over time, and hopefully he can come back and be stronger and better than ever.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just an overall shame to start off the show like this, just mainly for what the future holds for Rick Boogs, because he was starting to get over pretty good. It leaves Nakamura in limbo now, because at least Nakamura has a singles career or a history in WWE that he can rely on, and so can move back into that. But yeah, you could pretty much tell from when the injury happened and Nakamura came back in that they were pretty much working on the fly.
Mm-hmm.
And just trying to put the things together. They just had to come up with the finish. Because, yeah, it seemed like there was a good possibility that the babyfaces would win, and so they just had to decide, okay, we'll have him kick out the splash and then hit him with the 1D, and then it's over. And, yeah, it's probably a weird state to be in, but the Usos will remain the tag team champions, which is fine. They can anchor any tag team division. And then you'll probably just transition on to Old Faithful, just go with the New Day feud again, because there's really no other option.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure right now they're not like coming up with other plans, but
no, the main priority should be obviously, hopefully Boogs gets well soon, or gets well as soon as possible, and does get back healthy, because quadricep tears or whatever, like hamstring whatever the tear ends up being, it's just like, yeah, it's no joke. Obviously, that's the Triple H injury that he's famous for. So, yeah, and it took him a long time to recover from both of those. So, but hopefully Boogs recovers in the same way he did.
Comes back and wins Royal Rumble.
Well,
yeah, it's not going to happen.
I think mainly at this point, just come back at this point is the real challenge. It's been really. I mean, SmackDown is light on talent as it is, but I mean, they've only just recently lost Big E to a broken neck, and now Boogs as well. It's not like they're the top stars, but they're now starting to struggle with depth now.
I mean, they didn't have a whole lot of people to begin with. SmackDown was already working with a lesser roster, and then they fired a bunch of people, and then they were like, well, we could just get through Mania, and now you're running out of options for that. It's all the more reason that now's the perfect time to bring up somebody like a Tommaso Ciampa to just be like, look, we need you, pal. I mean, I don't know if that was planned for him to go there or go to Raw or to leave. Obviously, if he's planning on leaving, that's highly unlikely that they'll just be like, and then you go to SmackDown and then everything works out. But if they were thinking about putting him on Raw at the very least, I'd be considering moving him to SmackDown instead. Just because you got to fill out this card a little bit here. But that sucks for Boogs. That sucks for Nakamura. At least the Usos are the Usos. And it's going to look good for them to keep the titles for longer. So it's not like you're stuck in a position where it's like, oh man, we were planning on getting rid of the belts for those people because one of them's leaving, and then now we got to figure out something else, or now they're stuck in NXT because we have no other champions or something. There's worst case scenarios, but it does really suck for Boogs, so I feel bad for that guy. Not a good way to start off WrestleMania, gotta say. That transitioned us into the Happy Corbin versus Drew McIntyre match. I noticed that Madcap Moss had changed his outfit from earlier during the pre-show. I thought that was kind of funny. And here I went ahead and typed, I'm a fan of these guys, but tell me anything happening here feels worthy of WrestleMania. And as I hit the update button on that, McIntyre jumps over the top rope like the fucking Undertaker. And I was like, well, God damn it. I'm glad to be proven wrong about that. But the big thing to talk about in this match is McIntyre kicked out of the End of Days. And I had mentioned this on some articles here and there of just like, I got a feeling that they're going to do that just to give us something to talk about, because they know now that nobody's been kicking out of the End of Days for so long. And, Corbin kind of ruined it for himself by saying in September, he was talking to BT Sport and he was like, if I had the option of either winning a world championship or nobody kicking out of the end of days for like a 12-year career, I think I would pick the end of days. I'd rather just nobody kick out of that because that'd be pretty cool to be able to say that. Well, that's gone. McIntyre.
Well, in fairness, he got 6 years on the main roster where nobody kicked out of his finish.
It's still crazy, but at the same time, it's like, I feel bad that it was just wasted because this didn't need to have that. This didn't mean anything.
Yeah, it is a bit of a shame because that was one of the big things of his character, is like that was the move that ended it. I guess it got a pop to a degree, like a very minimal pop, because to be honest, it's one of those things that a lot of people know that no one's ever kicked out at the end of days, but no one really cares about it. So it's just like when it did happen, it's like, oh, that's interesting. No one's ever kicked out that before, and then you just immediately move on because you don't really care about it in the grand scheme of things. And yeah, it's been wasted on a match which had very little build. I mean, to be fair, this was the segment that was the closing angle of the go home show for SmackDown, so I guess they did want to put some weight behind it.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, well, they wanted to add some sort of weird emotional weight to it because it was all just like essentially Drew McIntyre fighting Madcap Moss for weeks and months, and them trying to steal the sword and joke about it. And then on the go home episode of SmackDown, Corbin just brings out a line about how the similarities between Drew McIntyre's sword and his mum is that they both gone now. It's like, okay, add some sort of, okay. Just
so
like,
I didn't hear that on SmackDown because I was watching Supercard. I heard that on the promo package and audibly said, what the fuck?
Yeah, I heard that on SmackDown, I mean, I love these dumb jokes that they do, but that made me just go, oh, man, I would not have been the writer to pitch that one.
I mean, I don't mind those sort of things if all parties consent to it, but it's just a case of like it was a complete tonal shift to what they'd been doing beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
And then this match happens. I guess the most interesting aspect beyond the kicking out at the end of days is that Corbin was in complete control until Moss got involved. And Moss was dancing around on the apron. Corbin was going to bounce off the ropes, but Moss was in the way, and so that allowed McIntyre to get back into the match. They do the whole leap to the outside. Yeah, that was well put together. That just gives a little extra WrestleMania moment that McIntyre can look back to in video packages moving forward. And he wins with the Future Shock and the Claymore, and yeah, that's. The result is what you expected. It was pretty much a glorified SmackDown match.
My favorite thing about this is that literally it gets progressively better from here. Like nothing after this to me was objectively awful, and it just got increasingly better and better and better.
So I mean, the way that they ended this to give you one of those big pop kind of moments is they actually did do something with the sword. Now, obviously, he didn't just run through Moss and Corbin, but instead he breaks the top two ropes. He cuts them in half. And somebody in the Mega Maniacs was, or it might have been in our group chat on Facebook or something, but somebody was just like, I guess we're in for a little bit of a pause or something now. We're going to have 2 video packages or whatever while they reset this up. What did you guys think about the whole cutting the ropes thing? I thought it was fine. It's not the most glamorous thing that they've ever done, but yeah, it was something. If they wouldn't have done that, I probably would have just been complaining he didn't do anything with the sword, so it's better than nothing.
They really tried hard to give everybody something tonight, and this was something.
Listen, it was just a thing it was a fairly cool visual, but you do just get to the point of thinking he can't use the sword to hit someone with. So what's the point of him having it? It's just why is so much of his since he's lost the title, so much of his entire gimmick is built around that sword.
It's weird because it's Triple H with the sledgehammer is hokey, but you can at least swing it in such ways where it looks impactful but you're not actually hitting the guy, or he does this thing with his fist where that's how he hits people with it, or like he'll break the hammer on someone's back by clearly just hitting it with the handle, but you can't do that with a sword. So get rid of the sword.
It's getting to the point where, even though the completely rational part of my brain is always saying, obviously you can't do anything with it, there is a part of me that will just be disappointed that he never hits anyone with the sword.
Maybe they can have somebody come out with like chainmail. He just smacks them.
Or they do the thing where it's like in drama school where he just sticks it into their side of their arm and he falls over after.
Like little kids do with like a stick in the yard.
My
like,
God, that's exactly what they need to do.
Better yet, just do a fucking sword fight.
Then you have to get another guy with a sword.
Yes, give another guy a sword.
Bring back Pirate Paul Burchill.
That's where my mind went too. Just terrible.
Well, McIntyre gets the win there, and it seems like they are teasing even more so that Moss and Corbin might be splitting up after WrestleMania. They gave Moss that Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal win, or the Andre the Giant Battle Royal win, which is named after Andre the Giant. You know that the memorial match here is named after.
Doing that.
This is the third time that they did it twice in a row.
The Andre the Giant Memorial is named after Andre the Giant. You don't say. Like, no, I thought it was named after Nikolai Volkov. Like, what the fuck do you... It's the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. Why do you need to beat that over people's head?
First off, why do they need to do that? But then why do they do it twice? Every time so far, Cole has said literally twice, like back-to-back sentences, as if that's the plan, is you need to say Andre the Giant 4 times in the next 10 seconds. I don't know. It's strange. But whatever that happened, they ended up getting some new ring ropes and setting that all up for the next match, which was the Mysterios against Logan Paul and The Miz. And they had some good ring gear going on here. Both the Mysterios and Logan Paul and The Miz. Logan Paul's got, what is it, like some rare edition Pikachu Pokemon card?
It was like a gold-plated Pikachu. Rare one. It was like a rare Pikachu card plated in gold, which is just like, sure. Like, that's awesome.
I remember back in the day when I traded my friend a shit ton of different things to get his holographic Charizard. Wonder if that's worth any money now. Probably not.
I have to say, Logan Paul was very good this match.
He was solid. He had a great running power slam for somebody who, obviously this isn't what they normally do. He was able to do some moves off the ropes. He carried himself really well.
The amount of heat that he got for doing the
Three Amigos
into the frog splash with the little shimmy for the frog splash was so good that by the end of it, I almost felt like maybe the ending result shouldn't have been what it was, because people want to boo Logan Paul. So keep that going, because he's got something here, and I think it can be, really fruitful if you wanted to do it every few months.
That was another thing that I had written down. I wrote, when's the last time anyone did the Three Amigos and actually got through all of them before a heel broke it up? And then I said, oh, wow, I guess with Logan Paul. Because this is right after that he did that, and I was kind of surprised about that. But I like when they turn into the skid and they just make it, we know you're going to boo him, make him actually boo him. And I was shocked that The Miz and Logan Paul won this. I did not see that one coming. I figured it was an obvious Mysterio's victory.
As the match kind of progressed, it kind of felt like they were going in that direction, just because they gave the Mysterios the spot of doing the double 619 and all those cool things. But it got to the point where you just felt that they were going to go with the celebrity winning. But as you guys mentioned, Logan Paul carried himself very well. He's a natural heel. I would say that he would be a perfect fit for WWE moving forward, but the truth of the matter is he's probably too big for WWE. So that's so I don't know whether he would be willing to do this on a more long-term basis, but based on the ending of the match, or the post-match, should I say, I think that there could be at least a possibility. But he was great. I think this is the best that Dominik has looked since
Ever?
his debut at SummerSlam. Yeah, since his debut at SummerSlam a year or two ago, whenever that was. And yeah, I thought he was flying about all over the place. He was doing lots more lucha stuff that looked really impressive and flashy. Mysterio looked great. He was pulling out some of his best stuff because he was obviously he's not the same as he was 10 years ago, but when he needs to pull it off or on the big occasions, he'll do a little bit extra. So yeah, I think all four guys performed well in the match, and it was better than I expected.
I have to give Miz credit too for the facial expression on that heel turn. I guess it's not a heel turn, but on the turn on Logan Paul.
It was his babyface turn.
Arguably a babyface turn. Yeah, I don't understand why they did this necessarily, because
this is so. Well, I told you guys. And
you knew where it was going.
Yeah, and people didn't believe it. It's a case of they see Logan Paul as a babyface.
It's so ass backwards.
It's because like Miz, like obviously there was some good reactions throughout the entire match for a lot of stuff. I think, but Ray in particular was super over with the crowd, as you'd expect. But the biggest pop of the entire thing was Miz hitting the skull crushing finale on Logan Paul after the match, and it's just why like the reason why he would do that is because he was annoyed that Logan Paul got the spotlight, and he didn't want to share the spotlight, and so he took him out. Probably have to also mention the fact that Logan did not sell the skull crushing finale at all. Yeah, He just got up pretty much immediately afterwards, just staring at him. And yeah, that's a little negative mark on top of also the fact of this crowd really doesn't want to get behind Logan Paul, and either this was just a moment thing where they can bring it up at a later date when Logan Paul's available, maybe at like SummerSlam or something. Or they are willing to actually progress a feud between The Miz and Logan Paul, which is a feud that I don't think anyone really wants to see.
I think this is your SummerSlam match. I think that's fine. I wish this was one of the years where they were in Hollywood for SummerSlam, because it just feels like a better setting than, Vegas this year or whatever. But I think that's good. I actually want to see more of Logan. If you're going to bring in a celebrity and they do their best, like Logan did, like Bad Bunny did, then yeah, keep inviting them.
Do you guys think that we're going to get Logan Paul and Jake Paul wrestling?
I think that
in the next year
they'll be tag team champions within a year.
Tag team champions in a year.
Well, it depends on how invested they are in sticking around or doing stuff with WWE, but they're both like really top showmen in terms of just they have that natural swagger, that charisma, that they've already conquered the like YouTube scene and things like that, and they've already done the boxing thing as well. So if they want to transition to a short like couple year run with WWE doing specialty matches and one-off appearances, then I'm sure they'll nail that as well, because like or loathe the guys, and most guys loathe them for many reasons, they always kind of knock everything they do out of the park.
I'm anticipating either it's Jake Paul and Logan Paul against The Miz and someone else down the line, or honestly, I kind of think it's going to be Jake Paul and The Miz against Logan Paul and someone else. I don't know who the fuck that would be, but if WWE...
And in both cases, I say, if only John Morrison was still here.
Yeah. It's just a weird thing. I did not see it coming that they would win this match and then The Miz would do that afterward, but I guess we'll find out what happens afterward, at least on Monday Night Raw.
I think, and I'm just recklessly speculating and fantasy booking here, but this would be a really good time for Dominik to go, I lost to Logan Paul. Let me go back to NXT and earn my way into the next WrestleMania I'm on.
Well, first thing he has to do is grunt work. He has to tape back together the X that Braun Breaker got rid of earlier tonight. I don't know. I mean, Do I want Dominik in NXT taking up a lot of the spotlight in NXT? Not really. Kind of. I'm okay with him just being on Raw and being in one little segment. I see where you're coming from, though.
Well, the good news is, as I said at the end of the last one, it got way better from here because this next match was, I thought, damn near untouchable.
Before that, Stephanie McMahon came out and she introduced, if you hadn't known it already from this past year or so, hey guys, Gable Stevenson's here. Come on. Isn't this great? This guy's really important for the future of this company. And he came out and just kind of looked happy and then left. I thought this was kind of awkward.
Pointless.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just an opportunity to show off one of their, I assume someone they want to push on Raw in the coming weeks. And yeah, a chance for Stephanie to blow her own trumpet.
I don't know much about Stevenson, so I don't know what I'm missing.
Well, he won the gold medal.
Well, I mean, I know the face value stuff that's being told to me, but I've never heard him really talk. So I don't know if he's a good talker. I've never watched any of his wrestling matches because I don't give a shit about amateur wrestling. Right? It's just not one of the things that I'm into. So I don't know if this guy's one of these, he's going to be the next Kurt Angle, or if it's just he happens to be an Olympic wrestler who they want to be the next Kurt Angle. But man, they are putting so much faith in him being the savior for these next few years. I still have a whole lot of faith in it. I hope I'm wrong. But
it makes all the sense in the world. He's a fan. He wants to be there. It's not like they're parading him around with a big money deal and he doesn't want to be there. I think at some point it will pay off if they give it enough time and allow it to do so, but we're going to have to get through the rough patch first.
Well, we did have a great match following this. No rough patch following that. It was the Raw Women's Championship match between Becky Lynch and Bianca Belair. Started off very lame in my book. Becky Lynch comes out in an SUV, and I was like, am I supposed to be impressed with this? It's a fucking SUV. Who gives a shit?
Bro, you were really bothered. You've been finding just the weirdest things to be perturbed about lately. Yeah, it wasn't the hottest entrance, but
it bugs me when things like that happen and they try to make it a big deal. That's what annoys me. They're like, oh, she's in grand entrance. And I'm like, it's a fucking SUV. There's 6 of them on the road right outside my window right now. I didn't like her dumb truck thing, but that was at least a personalized truck. This made this look way better in comparison. I was just like, it's a fucking SUV. They just got a car. Okay.
How'd you like the Marvel kind of intro for her?
That was cool. But the SUV was just lame. I did like Bianca Belair's entrance. They had the marching band. I'm not a big fan of marching band music, so that was already something that wasn't speaking to me, but that was cool. They had people out there actually making it seem like a big deal. She comes out with great ring gear, which is no surprise because she makes her ring gear and it's always good. But that felt like an actual grandiose WrestleMania type entrance. Way better than a fucking car.
Bianca Belair is such a star. She exudes superstardom. And this entrance was just another piece of that. And my God, she at this point might be one of the best women to ever compete on WrestleMania because she's had 2 proper matches and they've both been the best matches of the night, just about.
Yeah, this match ruled. This was my favorite match of the night. I have so many positives to say about just the pacing of it, the timing of a lot of their things. They had moments here and there where I thought that Becky Lynch was going to retain, and I was nervous about that. Not only just the first 10 seconds where I'm like, oh, they're just going to do that whole thing and be like, haha, fuck you. But they had a couple moments here and there, some near falls that really got me. I was nervous about the count out even. Because I was like, God, don't tell me they're going to do a stupid count out. Because Bianca waited until it was like 9 to get up and run to the ring. I enjoyed this a hell of a lot. And when Bianca Belair picked Becky Lynch up for the KOD, the crowd went nuts over that.
Yeah. Such a cool moment and such a good match. The urgency that they played in the opening moments, even beyond like the 10 seconds where they teased reenacting SummerSlam. I just think that's so cool because realistically, like, you're in a big title match. Why aren't you trying to go home as fast as possible? And they just continue to up the ante and pick up the pace. And they have great chemistry, which finally shined through properly here where it needed to. And just shout out to the production team as well, because that video package, that erased September and October. That never happened. And if you just watch the video package and the match, it's fantastic.
You think it's going to be a third year in a row for Bianca next year where they do the same thing, where they're just like, just focus on this match?
Yep, it'll be Bianca and Charlotte. They'll manage to do it again.
Yeah, this was unbelievably awesome. It was fast paced. It was dramatic. It was violent. It was crisp. They were doing so many like great spots together. It was violent to the outside, using the steel steps, using the like Becky pulling on Bianca's hair to get herself into the position to wanted her to be in, the dramatic near count out towards the end. The transition into the KOD was great. It was, it just went perfectly together. I'll say this now, and again, I haven't watched the match from last year recently, but I think this blew it out of the water in terms of an actual match. I think people will always go back to the Banks Bel-Air match because it's a moment. But as a match, I think this is significantly better. I would probably go so far to say, just again, maybe would have to go back and look at some other contenders for this, but I think this is the greatest women's match that's ever been on WrestleMania.
And
it's hard to kind of think of an alternative,
Yeah.
I mean, they're all within the last 10 years or so. So I'd say that the other contenders are
Charlotte and Asuka, the triple threat match to crown the first women's champion with Charlotte, Becky, and Sasha. Mickie James versus Trish Stratus, and then Bianca Belair versus Sasha, and that's about it, I'd say. And then add this to the pile. And again, maybe it's just recency bias, but I just thought this match was so good. I think this is the match to which everyone can now finally say that, because everyone always kind of looked at Becky a bit of, okay, she has so much charisma and that's what's gotten her over, but she's not the wrestler at the level of Charlotte or Sasha. And then you look at this match and go, yeah, she's as good as those two.
If not better.
And on her day, she can have a better match than both of those two.
I think that's one of those things where, because the man gimmick and all that got her to another level, that people forget that even before all that, she's probably one of the better wrestlers of the bunch, and this match puts her back on that pedestal. And shout out to Bianca, man. She can hang anyone.
It's past that point now. You can't have two matches of the quality that she's had WrestleMania. Admittedly, with two of the best workers in the women's division in WWE history, but you can't have matches of that higher standard without being a great wrestler yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And so she's gone to the point of, yes, she can carry these matches and be as good as the people that she's fighting with. She, obviously the era of the four horsewomen is still here, and hopefully it's still around for a good few years to come. But post that point, it's the era of Bianca. This is Bianca's time now, and the four horsewomen are kind of the surrounding players around this new star that they're developing.
By all means, don't fuck it up, WWE.
Well,
You've got such a good thing with Bianca. Like, she is popular as all hell. She is beautiful. She is athletic as shit. Like, nobody can top these things that she's bringing to the table. She's got no negatives to her. She can talk. She is a great representative of the company. If we were to do Superstar Scores, Bianca Belair, right now, she would be in a really, really high score. And there's a good chance that she only gets higher. So do not turn this into one of those things where it's like, yeah, we gave her spot, but you know what? It'll be interesting if we have her just like lose the belt in another 2 weeks or something, you know, some kind of lame shit like that.
I would make the argument the qualities she exudes are akin to Cena for me. Like, she's so positive about the company whenever she does interviews. She's just a great star. Like, she's John Cena. You know, like, that's her ceiling. She can go as high as he's gone.
She's a Cena who's actually like popular and good in the very good in the ring. So that's even adds even more to it. But I think that with Bianca, now's the time to, because you got Bianca and Bianca's great, and I don't think she needs any more finessing. Obviously, with more experience, she'll get better and better and be more of a ring general as time moves on. But now's the time you need to focus on everyone else in your division, because a champion's only as good as their challengers.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the issue that's plagued her previous reign, is the fact that she only fought Bayley, and then she had Carmella, and that felt like an afterthought. And then she lost the title to Becky, and obviously that all led to culminated with where this is. And listen, you have the 4 horsewomen, but she already fought Sasha multiple times. You can go, and Sasha's on the other brand at the moment. She's already fought Bayley 2 or 3 times for the title.
We've had like 9 Doudrop matches. We don't need to do that anymore.
She's had multiple matches with Doudrop. She's had multiple matches with Becky Lynch now. So you have to move on from that point.
It's got to be Rhea.
Ripley's the obvious place to go, but do you do that one straight away, or where is who's next essentially? Because like Liv, you've already had Doudrop. Do you try and position Tamina again into this thing, because this seems to be like where Tamina fits in at some point? But I think that
it's Asuka. If it's not Rhea, it's Asuka.
I mean, you've got Asuka and Alexa as well. If you decide to transition Alexa onto heel role, I just don't think that, with the exception of Asuka, any of them, Asuka and Rhea, outside of those two, I don't think you've got anyone that can produce. I guess that would be the real test of Bianca at that point, whether she can get great matches out of workers who aren't up to her ability.
I mean, I'm sure they'll do at least a one-off with Nikki ASH, but that's not some feud that they can get 3 months out of and not make it seem like it's dragging its ass, you know?
They need to spend some time building up who her next challenger is. And whoever that is, hopefully they do actually spend some time developing and actually build up some good feuds that make this championship reign feel a bit more meaningful than the last one did.
Catching up a little bit on the chat, some of the stuff that was talked about here. Somebody had said, let me see if I can find this again. Frankie had said, did anyone else hear bullshit in the beginning of the band playing? And Adam said yes. What happened there? I'm curious. Did you guys hear that? I didn't hear that.
It could have been someone chanting from the crowd, or it could have been just like a hot mic, you know?
We had a couple little audio snafus here and there. They cut away to Jackie Redmond at one point. She's just staring at the screen, and they didn't bother to tell her that she's one on there. Emilio mentions in the chat the Molly go round, where Becky just fucking nails Bianca in the face. I was worried that she had a concussion or a broken orbital bone or something, because that was bad. I actually went back and reversed it to show Caroline, because she heard my like just visceral reaction to it of just and she's like, what? And I'm like, no, take a look at this and whatever. And she was like, oh god, yeah. Oh, her fear is that she has like a detached retina or something. I'm like, as far as I know, there hasn't been any kind of issues, but that certainly wasn't good, because she struggled to kick out after that too. She barely kicked out of that.
It's one of those things that obviously you don't want to see happen because you don't want to put anybody's health at risk. But it seems with all signs, at least following that she's good and that hasn't seemed to affect her any significant way. It just is a cool visual now of just that knee colliding with her face. It's just like, yeah, that's. Again, she's a badass. She got through that moment, didn't lose her stride, didn't throw her off the game at all, and yeah, again, sign of a true professional.
So any other thoughts on this match before we move on? We're all just, talking about how great everything is, but this was one of the best parts of the night. So
it was absolutely great, and I'm gonna say this a few more times because what follows this was fantastic, and Ronda and Charlotte got fucked with everything on this card. Like, we'll get to that.
Yeah, next up on that was Seth Rollins coming out, and we're saying that we didn't really dig the Becky Lynch look, Caroline and I, and then Seth Rollins came out, and she's like, what is he wearing? To the point that she took a couple screenshots and sent them to some of her friends to be like, look at what Seth Rollins is wearing. Not a look that I was expecting him to have, but it's a look. It's a thing. We had a choir accompany him to the ring, or for his stage at the very least, didn't accompany him to the ring. And he's hamming it up about who's his opponent. The lights go out.
Well, no. First of all, a bunch of pyro goes off. And then the lights go out. And
then it's Goldberg.
Right.
Gotta imagine how pissed people have been.
No, I enjoyed before obviously the whole entrance started is just how long they waited.
Yeah, they milked it, but in a good way.
Yeah, they milked it because they knew they were going to deliver. The longer they waited, the more it filled me with confidence that it was actually what we all expected it to do.
You know what it reminded me of? When they were announcing who's going to be the guest host of WrestleMania that one year, and everybody was like, well, it's going to be The Rock, right? And then there was all those rumors that it was going to be Justin Bieber, and they milked it, and there was that kind of like, all right, this is going way too long now. If it's Justin Bieber, they're doing this just to troll people. But, of course, then you hear, if you smell, and everybody goes fucking ballistic.
As soon as there was the pyro from the four corners and then just right up the stage, I said, well, I guess it's Cody. Because it's like, oh, they're going to do the you are the biggest star ever. And they sure did.
Cody, thankfully, is the person, and they have him with the American Nightmare nickname. He's got his regular gear that he's been wearing in AEW, and he's got the theme song. They did not fuck over.
From Dynamite.
Yep. They didn't bother to do the whole like, well, we need to give you some kind of other theme. We need to have you come out as Stardust. We need to have you go back to the smoke and mirrors or anything. No, whoever was that made the call, because there's some kind of report out there that there were like two people in particular that were adamant that he needed to just be Cody from AEW. I don't know who those people would be. I'm hoping that we find out down the line so we can give them credit. Whoever fought for that, thank you. I got a feeling it might be Pritchard. Might be one of them.
I'm sure Pritchard was at least one of them.
Fuck off. He doesn't do anything right.
Well, Cody's been talking about that Bruce Pritchard was one of the few people that he was talking to ahead of time about this.
He only mentioned talking to Cody, to Bruce, Nick Khan, and Vince.
So it's like, if he's only been talking to those couple people, I mean, Pritchard could be one of those guys. But maybe somebody like a Paul Heyman or something, you know?
Well, realistically, the only person you have to convince is Vince.
Right.
The only person if one of the only people who's been talking to is Vince and he says, yeah, I want to come in with all this stuff, and Vince says, okay, then that's kind of...
That's all you need.
It's pretty much irrelevant what anyone else thinks in the entire strand of the organisation. But I just don't really want to... At the end of the day, I can't say for certainty that Pritchard doesn't have anything to it, but I don't think we should say this one win should be the huge pat on the back for all the... Well, for everything that's shit with WWE creative right now.
Oh, believe me, don't put those words in my mouth. This does not make up for that kind of thing. It's just Thank God they didn't fuck that up. You know what I mean?
Listen, he's got the presentation that he had in AEW, and that is what he needed. He's a top star. He can be presented as a top star within the company, but in order to do that, they had to give him all the things that AEW did. Because AEW, I mean, I'm not saying that AEW made him a star, but AEW gave him all that stuff to represent the top main event level draw that he was. So why would you change anything like that? There was absolutely nothing wrong with Cody Rhodes' presentation in AEW.
Yeah, it was the right call to make. Obviously, it was the right call to make to have Cody Rhodes be this person and not to do some kind of like, haha, we got you. It's actually Shane kind of bullshit or something. And of course, the right call for Cody Rhodes to win this match. I like that they did the pedigree. I like that they did that inverted suplex off the turnbuckle. This was just a hell of a lot of fun. And it ended with 2 crossroads leading into the bionic elbow and then another crossroads for the win.
They did the Cody Cutter, which they called it. Thankfully, the announcers called this and his moveset like they had been watching him wrestle, because there was a few moments, and it's the only negative I can say about this whole segment, where commentary was like, well, he's been away for 6 years, and that's his first shoulder tackle in a WWE ring in 6 years. It's like, don't do this thing like you don't know where he's been. He's been on TNT and, on this other really successful company. So that I didn't like, but everything else here was flawless. Like, Cody Rhodes was always a great TV wrestler. I think, for me at least, his AEW stuff stuck out in that it always felt more WWE.
Mm-hmm.
And now he gets to hopefully be a top star in WWE because he deserves it. Everything that this was, I saw a lot of shitty fucking comments on the internet about like, oh man, this guy's got the biggest daddy issues I've ever seen. Oh, he's already back in Vince's ring, kissing his ass and spreading his cheeks. Like, fuck you. The guy wants to do this, then he deserves it. And if he gets to live his dream, let him do that, I think he deserves the world, and I'm glad he's getting the chance to have it.
I mean, we still don't even know all the details of why he left AEW.
He says he won't say.
He probably won't.
He's already put out several interviews. Variety put out an interview as soon as he hit the stage.
Right, yeah, they were just kind of like, whoop, we're sitting on this. There you go. I didn't get a chance to read it yet.
Where he's like, I won't go into details about my AEW departure. I have chosen to remain silent, and I will remain silent. I know they put out a press release that says he signed a multi-year deal. I know part of that is he's working on the A&E biography for Dusty with WWE. I think it probably comes down to a star power situation, because one of the things he did say was, I told Vince and Bruce and Nick that I genuinely feel like I'm the best wrestler in the world, and I want to prove it. And I'm really excited to see where he goes, because honestly, he should be world champion soon.
I am hoping, depending on what happens with the unification of the titles, I of course have been saying for a while, I don't think that that's going to last too long. I'd be shocked if we still have only one champion by SummerSlam. Just utterly shocked. I don't think that we're going to have one champion by Money in the Bank, even. But depending on with how that situation works out, Cody jumps straight to one of the very, very, very top spots of who I want to be the next WWE champion. So this was great. I liked the match a whole lot. The segment, of course, the shock and all that other kind of stuff that goes along with that. Big thumbs up.
Yeah, the entrance was great and the crowd responded to it well. I think the match took a little bit of time to get going, but it was like one of those matches that just built and got better and better as time went on. had some really cool spots. Had the suplex both falling to the outside of the ring, just like going over the ropes. I think Seth was great in this match. Seth did everything in his power to make this guy. Well, obviously Cody can more than hold his own in the ring, but Seth knew what his role was in this and played it to an absolute T. And yeah, never hit the stomp at any point, so no point of him kicking out the finisher, but hit the pedigree, hit the the reverse suplex out of the corner and the lifting up into essentially the Shattered Dreams, which I guess was a nice touch as well. Then hit, and then Cody came back with all the crossroads. Obviously, Seth kicked out the first one because, as AEW shows, you can never win on the first crossroad. So it goes on the free. I like the Dusty touch as well. I'm sure that was something that he really wanted to get into. Get to do some bionic elbows, because that was kind of a big part of him leaving in the first place, is that he wanted to get rid of the Stardust gimmick and do something more in homage to his father, because his father had recently passed away by that point. And so he gets to do that on the grand stage. Yeah, it was an emotional moment, and I'm sure he's happy here as well. Now we obviously get to the point of, this is a great first chapter, but that, like the old saying goes, like, one swallow doesn't make a summer. It's kind of, he needs to then build off of this.
I don't think I've ever heard that phrasing before.
It is a phrase.
Have you ever heard that, Rob?
I have not, but I'm good with it.
A new poll in the comments, the live chat. Have you ever heard that phrase, or is that, I'm going to make an actual poll here. Have you ever heard that phrase, that saying before?
God, you're so uneducated.
There you go. There's a literal poll up on the live chat now of, have you ever heard that saying?
But it obviously means that it has to build off of this point. You can't just have the great opening act and then he falls down the card and he's fighting Baron Corbin in his first match at WrestleMania Backlash. It's like, need to actually, build him up if you are going to make him world champion in the future. And I think there's a very real possibility he would be. If that's the case, then WWE feels what a big part of this role would be, which is to show that if a guy comes over who is a star in AEW, they will treat them as the star they are coming over. But I think that, and there's something that I saw on Twitter as well, which I thought is just as equally as valid now as this, is that Cody came back and he's now got that star treatment. He has like a banger match at WrestleMania, gets all the bells and whistles, all the pyro, all this great stuff. Like, WWE is now treating him as a star much bigger than he was at the point of leaving the company in the first place, where he was just like coloured up in his brother, like a pseudo recreation of his brother's gimmick. And this will now convince a load of mid-carders in WWE that you leave, you become a star, you come back, you get treated like a star.
I mean, Christian left. Christian comes back. He finally wins the world title. Drew McIntyre leaves. Comes back. He wins 2 world titles.
Bobby Lashley.
Funny enough,
Impact.
All 3 of them came back and won 2 world titles.
Yeah. So this is like, this is one example. Obviously, there's been plenty of examples in the past, but this is time to just show a lot of these people that if you do have the ability and you do have the potential and you feel like you can unlock something that WWE hasn't seen, and this goes with AEW as well, then you can go to the other place, prove them wrong, come back and earn a shit ton more money, get a lot more higher position, give yourself an opportunity to fight for the top championships and main event pay-per-views and all this other stuff. That should be, like, Cody Rhodes is the incentive to do that, as well as the incentive for the top AEW guys to come over and say, okay, if you're going to treat us the way that we feel like we should be treated, then I think we can work with something here. So I think this is going to make this whole quote-unquote wrestling war, or at least the battle for talent, a lot more interesting.
So Cody did another interview with The Ringer, and he spoke to Dave Schumacher and said that Bruce and Vince flew down to meet him, and he said to Vince, it has to be Kingdom, It has to be the American Nightmare. And Vince said, well, that's not broke, and that's what we're buying. And he said that felt like vindication, and it felt good to hear the people that he spent all the time trying to prove wrong, that now they're on his side. And he says, it's pretty clear what I came to do. There's unfinished business. For my family, there's one thing we never got, and I'm going to be the one to get it.
Good. I hope he fucking does.
And I'm also looking forward to all the chumps on Twitter who have spent the last 2 or 3 years completely castigating his name and all this other stuff because he's part of the quote-unquote competition, now to come crawling and groveling at his feet because, he's back with the big time now.
Well, yeah, but like on the flip side of that, like the people I mentioned who are just like, oh my God, he's so pathetic that I saw this one. He'd rather go back to WWE than just go to therapy for his daddy issues. Like,
what daddy issues? He misses his father and he reveres the guy who he learned wrestling from. And like, what? It's not like he's like, I don't know. I mean, there's plenty of people that have daddy issues that this is not on the same path in my mind.
It's so strange to me that like people really have it stuck in their craw just because he's like, you know what? I really enjoyed what my father provided the industry, and I want to be a part of that.
I think, if anything, go ahead.
He also said, I didn't want to be a 15-time TNT champion and hold the belt hostage. I wanted to move on to a different piece of leather. So obviously, like, he's setting it up. He wants WWE title, and that's all he wants. And fuck yeah, because you guys know me. I like when the belt is the most important thing. And for Cody Rhodes, it seems like it is.
I mean, admittedly, the only reason he couldn't go for that other piece of leather is because he
said
Creed,
so.
Yeah. Even still, though, if you're talking about like the whole idea of he's got daddy issues, wouldn't it be more indicative of that if he stayed in AEW and continued to push the whole let's try to make this WCW 2.0? That would be more of that to me, because then it would be like, I want desperately to bring in this old WCW thing that my dad did and this old WCW thing that my dad did. That felt more desperate to me than he comes back to WWE. I think they're just like upset because they're like, oh, he left the brand that we're supporting right now. And that apparently I'm in the pocket of, because I write for Bleacher Report.
Where's my money, Tony? What the fuck?
Hey, where's my money at this point?
Why don't we go with just the more general thing, which is, it's none of your fucking business.
It's a good thing, too. By the way, we have 5 votes on the poll. Nobody had ever heard of that phrasing before.
Hold on.
That's just a lot of people calling themselves out for being uneducated.
Hold on. What was the phrase that you said, Callum?
One swallow doesn't make a summer.
Tell that to my ex. Whoa.
That's so... That's the way you say it, too. That just sounds classy. Shame on us for being uneducated.
Well, that took us into the Hall of Fame parade. Just one of those little moments that we see at WrestleMania every year. It's, hey, here's the class of the 2022 Hall of Fame. It's always a cool moment. Nothing really too much more to it. And then after that, we had the SmackDown Women's Championship match. To quote Rob from earlier, get fucked, Ronda.
Didn't it seem like that's what they were doing? Like, honestly, the whole damn thing felt like Ronda and Charlotte are going to main event. They have to main event. And you got to follow Bianca and Becky. You got to follow Cody. You got to follow... You're going to be forgotten about because Austin's got to wrestle. And then you have a screwy finish on top of it. Like, this was just not great for these two. Match itself was fun, but everything surrounding it was just not great.
Yeah, I was adamantly disinterested in this feud going into it.
Well, yeah, that's kind of the point. Is that it didn't have the same animosity that had been built into the Bianca and Becky match. And even though we'd seen that match beforehand, obviously we've seen this match as well, but that match had been built up so much better, and they carried over that animosity into the match itself, and it seemed to have a lot more weight to it. This felt like two people who are obviously proficient in the ring, just going through move after move. Just move, pin, potentially, submission, move. It was so just flat. And it got better, and there was some good stuff to it, but the crowd wasn't interested. You could tell that they were excited after the previous ones. They couldn't really care less about this match, and it just felt is that whole beat between the notes thing. It just felt like they were just hitting one move, transition, hit another move. There was no kind of melody or how, I don't know how you would describe it, any kind of emotion behind the match. It was very, very robotic.
See, I liked this match more than I thought that I was going to. And I'm going to give it more praise than I imagined that I would. But yeah, it just was not as good. And yeah, I think that it's almost, everybody's got their own opinion. So of course, an opinion in many ways isn't necessarily right or wrong. But I think that most people would agree this was not the better match of the night. And it's for a couple different reasons. I mean, Charlotte Flair at times didn't seem like she was super into it. Ronda Rousey, she can be great in a lot of ways, but at the same time, she also still works a kind of style that doesn't seem like it's really indicative to professional wrestling. And she does moves like that Piper's Pit, which is awful, and it never looks good, ever. It basically just always looks like she picks somebody up and then falls. I've always hated that, so that's not a surprise that it still sucks. The biggest thing out of this to me was just, I was shocked that they went with Charlotte Flair retaining.
But there are a couple of things in this match, on top of obviously the finish, which is odd to say the least, but we'll see where that goes from there. Screen blacked out a couple of times.
It did for me too. Yeah. Okay.
That's because Charlotte fell out of the top multiple times.
Oh, is that what happened?
Yeah. So that's going to be probably quite a buzz on any sort of social forum for the next day or so. Just be images or people discussing, hey, did you see that Charlotte fell out of the top during the match? And yeah, so that's obviously never something you want to do, especially in the like quote unquote main event of WrestleMania.
How did you guys catch that? I didn't see that happened.
Everyone was talking about it on Twitter. Just saw some people notice about it and just did a little bit more digging to see what people were saying. And let's put it this way, it's not difficult to find images online as well.
I'm sure there's a certain subreddit that probably has like 15 different angles of
this is Christmas and Easter all come at once, essentially, for those sort of subreddits.
You're gonna use the phrase all come at once for that? No, that's a phrase I've heard.
Yeah, but I think that yes, that's obviously took away from the match a little bit. Again, I think that there was certain parts where it just, as I say, it was going from move to move, and there was no. I think they were thinking too much about spots. And so it meant that they weren't actually taking into consideration into the actual emotion or the flow of the match. They were just trying to think, okay, what's the next move or what's the next transition? Let's try and do that and move on. And that meant that it just didn't carry the same weight or feeling that you get from the Becky and Bianca match, even though everything they were doing in the ring was pretty much fine. I don't think there was any like major botches or anything along those lines. So yeah, it was a decent to good match, and the finish is bizarre. And it always seems to be something involved with Charlotte Flair. It always seems to be something involving Charles Robinson.
Well, I mean, he's a big fan of Ric Flair and Little Nacho. Yeah, they have that whole thing going on.
I think that they need to eventually go down the route of the fact that he's just deliberately helping Charlotte Flair win matches.
Why not?
Well, I have to point this out though, because Ronda kicks Charlotte off from the figure four, and she full on spears Charles Robinson. Like, she didn't accidentally bump into him. Like, she tackles him as though he was in the match, and that to me just felt so weird and forced. And then it immediately ends with, and I hate when Charlotte matches end with this, the big boot. Like, that's not this impactful finisher. And for her to beat Rousey like that, I'm sure they're going to fight a Backlash.
Yep.
But it's honestly, it's like, if you were going to give the belt to Ronda Rousey, just do it at Mania. Why did you give this match another weird damper? Just so Charlotte can say she beat Ronda?
I think it's a couple different reasons. I think one is they want Charlotte to be able to say that she beat Ronda Rousey at WrestleMania, because in the grand scheme of things, Charlotte Flair is the one that sticks around. So you give a little bit of special treatment to Ronda Rousey, of course, whenever she is around, but Flair is the benchmark Hall of Famer type person. And I also think that it's partially, we're going to swerve them. Everybody expects Ronda Rousey to win. Haha, we got you. Charlotte Flair won. And I think it's their means to go. And we're going to have a rematch because it was a little wonky finish here. We're going to just have a rematch at WrestleMania Backlash, and that's when Rousey wins.
You know what, though? We got such a good... Like, there was so much good on this show because they didn't do that. Because they didn't go, oh, well, we got you, pal. Like, it just seems unnecessary. And I think Charlotte may be undefeated in singles matches at WrestleMania. Granted, I think she's only had 2 or 3. But I think she may be undefeated. And I think that may be something they're going for. Because why else do you have her, ruin that moment for Rousey? Because honestly, if she just went to the belt at Backlash, then I'm going to just say, well, fuck, he should have done it at Mania. But whatever.
But we do know that they love doing their thing where it's like, how can we stretch it out? So I am fully expecting Rousey versus Flair, maybe in a gimmick match, maybe not even, because sometimes it seems like it's pretty obvious that they need to do a gimmick match and then they don't. Sometimes they've even done the gimmick match and then said, but our second match is going to have no gimmicks. And that's been very strange. But I fully expect Rousey's winning that title at WrestleMania Backlash. But
yeah, I think that I guess there is the argument to be made that by having Charlotte Flair win, it is probably a swerve, and it's just a case like, everyone expected Ronda to win, and we're not going to do it. But maybe that makes it more memorable, because as we discussed, the match itself wasn't as great as the other matches that surrounded it. So in order to give it some memorable aspect to it, you have Charlotte beat Ronda, because that's the unexpected nature of it, and you just think, oh wow, I can't believe that happened. And so by doing that, you actually make the match artificially more memorable. So maybe there is a purpose to it beyond just the fact of they just didn't see it coming.
Or maybe they actually want to go with this trend of Charlotte Flair spoils something at WrestleMania, because she not only did this, but she did it with Asuka, and she did it with Rhea Ripley. So maybe it's kind of like that's her role at WrestleMania, is if she's fighting somebody who seems like they should win, then she didn't. It just
always pushed the mantra, you never bet against Charlotte Flair. And now this is the core example of it, because absolutely no one would have believed that she would have beaten Ronda Rousey on this night, and she did. So now you literally can't go into any match with Charlotte Flair in and think that she's going to lose.
Yeah. Well, we'll see where that goes down the line.
You know who didn't lose? Us, for this closing segment. This closing segment was the best it could have been, and even better than I could have ever imagined.
And we finished off the night with the Kevin Owens show. KO has Stone Cold Steve Austin as his guest. And it didn't take long at all for the trash talk to turn into what we were hoping, but I personally thought wasn't going to happen, which was that Owens just said, I didn't bring you here to talk. I brought you here to challenge you to a no-holds-barred match. And Austin really didn't say all that much. He just kind of soaked it in, let everybody go nuts, accepted it. Referee comes down, match is official, and I'm thinking, holy shit, they actually did it. I didn't give them enough credit. I just thought that they were going to be half-assing this, and then they would go, well, we didn't tell you it was going to be a match, haha. But on top of that, I was like, okay, the match is going to be a 2-second match then. And the match starts going and it seems like an actual match. And then I'm like, okay, well, Austin's not going to take a bump then. And the guy takes a vertical suplex on the concrete. And I'm like, well, fuck, I'm wrong about all these things. And I am so happy to be wrong in those kind of scenarios. I will always take me being wrong and something being good when I thought that it was going to be bad as the best case scenario, outside of me hoping something's going to be good, thinking it's going to be good, and it's even better, obviously. But I would much rather be wrong and for something to be good than for me to be right and for it to be shit. I will always keep that same position going. So I was very happy to see that we had an actual match here. Stone Cold's drinking during the match. He takes a stunner from Owens, which pretty much needed to happen. Owens takes a chair shot to the head. He bounces it off the top ropes, smacks himself in the head. Didn't see that one coming.
I think you probably could make too much about that. I mean, he's in complete control of that chair.
Still, I mean,
head.
Chair shot to the head. It's not something that they do, you know?
I think they feel more comfortable about it when it's a moment like that where it looks like a mistake on the guy. But so good. And Austin doing suplexes when he doesn't have to. And I loved every minute of this. And as the minutes went by, I'm just like, holy shit, they gave us an actual match. Because I had said from minute one, it has to be a match. They're advertising a match. And good God, they delivered. And fuck, I will always credit them for delivering. And I'm so happy that night one ends with Steve Austin's last match. And it's a good match, all things considered. And it just felt like, yeah, great way to end the show. So cool.
Yeah, this was like so much fun from start to finish. I mean, obviously the talk is Stone Cold's last match. It was great. You have to just say Kevin Owens is the greatest. He's just amazing. He bumped his ass off for this guy. He threw himself through tables onto the announce table, got suplexed onto the stage. That cool moment where he's like driving up on the back of the
ATV.
Austin and him on the ATV and driving up to the stage, and he like took the stunner, took multiple stunners by the end of it. Obviously did his job, like to take the fall to Austin, because of course you're gonna have Austin win this match. He wins his final match in Texas after saying at the start that like he had his first match in Dallas and now he gets to have his final match in Dallas as well. And I guess that's the like he took all that punishment because he knows that he gets Austin's final match. He gets the main event WrestleMania.
Mm-hmm.
And now you kind of see why he signed back with the company when everyone thought that he was going to go. I mean, maybe they didn't. I assume that at that point they couldn't have guaranteed him.
He learned in January. So I'm sure that he knew that there was something big planned for him. But my God, like, this is... Kevin Owens lives forever. He main evented Mania. He has Austin's last match. If you'd have told me 10 years ago that Kevin Steen would have Steve Austin's last match and AJ Styles would have The Undertaker...
That's kind of strange,
like,
right?
That's awesome.
What do you think is going to be the trifecta of that? It's going to be like The Rock actually has one more match after Roman Reigns next year, and it ends up being like
with Sammy or something.
Yeah.
No, I think it will be well, not to spoil anything. I think that at least one of these quote unquote legendary names, one of their final matches will be against Austin Theory.
Shawn Michaels.
I think John Cena's final match will probably be against Austin Theory.
You know, that'd be good because he is kind of being positioned as like the potential next John Cena. So,
and he's been pushing for that. He keeps saying that John Cena is the one match he wants. I hope he gets it.
So lame that we never got John Cena versus Samoa Joe in some of these other matches, but we talked about that before. But
well, clearly, never say never in wrestling.
Never say never if you're Undertaker, even.
I mean, to be fair, we're saying all this stuff now. We can't actually say with any certainty that this is Steve Austin's final match.
I guess not.
I mean, he literally said, "I'll have my final match here," but again, he had his final match 19 years ago.
They could all just go back to Dallas in like 3 or 4 years, and he could just come back.
True. He looked pretty good. So I mean, it's not like if we have to wait another 19 years, I don't think that's gonna make a lot of sense. But still,
and it's not like Sting isn't over on AEW television at the age of 62, doing even more crazy stuff.
I thought it was funny that Owens gets a second stunner and they have the Texas security take him out. And then Austin invites Byron Saxton to the ring. And Corey Graves is just like, yes, I've been waiting for this.
Talk about selling for Steve Austin. Cool for Byron, huh?
Yeah.
Getting to oversell a stunner at WrestleMania.
Again, Byron knows his role. And then Austin got to celebrate a bit with his brother.
I was waiting for a stunner, were you?
Yeah, I know. I was thinking, literally, there was just. I think did people just start booing when his brother just got out of the ring and just being like,
they might have, because I was sitting there like, he's gonna stun him, right? Like,
just stun his own brother.
I thought that he might at least tease it, like just kind of like go for like, yeah, okay, well you're my brother, you don't get one kind of deal or something, but. So, I mean, WrestleMania ends with Stone Cold Steve Austin's final match against Kevin Owens. Fucking last year alone. Who would have thought?
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a fun way to end an overall fun night of wrestling.
Hoping that tomorrow is better, or at least on par.
I think the chances are slim. But you got Knoxville versus Zayn, which could be another like a match that's equivalent to the Owens and Austin one, where just like anything goes and they're just going all over the place. I think Brock versus Roman will be better than a lot of people are anticipating it to be.
We got Edge and Styles.
Yeah, that should be great.
Those are the only 3 matches that I'm looking forward to.
Triple threat tag will be great. I'm pretty certain of it, because we had a triple threat match involving 2 of these teams on Raw a month or so ago, and that was a great match. So I think the Street Profits will be able to carry their weight there as well.
I mean, Randy Orton was having a great night on Friday, so if he's carrying that positive energy, then
and I'm sure he's really happy Cody's back. He probably feels like, cool, another guy that I know.
And we'll get to the point now where obviously there's only so much you can hope for Bobby Lashley and Omos and the women's Fatal 4-Way tag match, but I think there's more enough that's listed for the show that should hopefully make it good. I just have flashbacks to last year's one, where it's like night 1 was really, really good, and outside of the main event on night 2, it was a pretty lackluster show.
Unless they have Edge and AJ Styles end in 5 minutes, like Randy and The Fiend last year, I can't imagine that there is anything on that card that wouldn't at least live up to expectations set.
Well, they could have it go 48 minutes like the Randy Orton and Edge match from the previous year's WrestleMania before that.
Gotta find that sweet spot.
Yeah, gotta find the middle. A bit of middle ground is needed here.
Yeah, so there are still some things to look forward to for WrestleMania Night 2 coming up, and just the same that we did for this and we did for NXT NXT TakeOver. Yeah, NXT Stand and Deliver earlier in the night. We're going to have another post show coming your way right after WrestleMania Night 2. So stay tuned for that tomorrow night. In the meantime, we want to thank you all for joining us in the live chat. We want to thank you for listening afterward if you weren't able to join us in this live chat on here. Thank you for the super chat stuff. I saw that Dane had sent a super chat in there. Let me just double check and reread that again from earlier. He said, what was longer, Gone with the Wind or the Undertaker Hall of Fame speech? Gone with the Wind. And not as entertaining as Undertaker's speech was. We've done pretty much all of our kind of plug stuff a million different times, but in case you just don't know the obvious things, hit the like button, hit the share button, subscribe, ring that notification bell, hit the join button to get access to the members only content, just the same as the Patreon, patreon.com/SmarkOutMoment. Check out what's happening on fanboysanonymous.com for everything over on the geek culture spectrum, like movie reviews and such. Follow me at Tony Mango on social media. Check out the TeePublic and Redbubble shops. Saw that earlier in the night. Somebody had bought 2 stickers of my one-way ticket to Pound Town thing that I have under the A Mango Tees Redbubble and thing. So thank you to whoever's going to be slapping that sticker somewhere. God forbid where they're going to put that one. But that's a thing that's out there as well. If you want to help us out on the monetary side of things like that, it's a little tip jar button, the super chats and stuff. Anything like that's a great way to help keep the lights on here. But if you are following what I've got going on, you should follow what these guys have going on as well. Rob?
Before I give my plugs, I want to read a tweet from CM Punk. Happy for Kev. Happy for Cody. Very happy for Steve. Also happy for Sting. Happy for myself. Happy for Brian. This isn't controversial. Fuck Eddie Kingston. Oh, happy for Edge. So, I love that. CM Punk is back. He's happy that people are happy. We need more of this. We need more wholesome in wrestling. And if you want to follow me, I've been told I'm pretty wholesome. Follow me at Dude Felice everywhere and follow Fightful and Fightful Select. Helen?
Yep, you can follow me on Twitter at Wigmeister14. Check out the power rankings on the Smark website, which was obviously a bit out of date now that WrestleMania's happened, but you can check out the final rankings, which took place on the hours prior to this show. And obviously the next week's edition will be the WrestleMania reset, where based on who wins at WrestleMania, they'll fill out the first 10 slots of the power rankings for next week, for this coming year, and we'll see where it goes from there. But check out that stuff as well. Also, as things have been happening, the Fantasy League is being filled up as well, so results are going in, scores are being tallied, and we'll find out tomorrow who wins at the end of the season.
Anything big happening right now that you want to share?
I'm still tallying up some numbers in terms of who won and stuff along those lines. I know at this point in time, I'm pretty disappointed with the Ronda Rousey thing. I thought that was a dead certain. But I got Bianca. I got Bianca, which means that I get the win, and it's double points, obviously, for anything that happens on both Stand and Deliver and WrestleMania. So hopefully that will carry me over, but we'll wait and see. I'll give the final predictions here because a lot could change tomorrow night.
I am saying I'm so annoyed that I didn't see the fourth, see it coming that they would end up doing this Raquel Gonzalez thing, and I didn't put her in there because, man, I would have gotten a title change on that, but whatever. We'll find out how that plays out tomorrow night. We'll find out how WrestleMania Night 2 is tomorrow night, and we will see you there, everybody. So thank you for joining us for this, and thank you in advance for tomorrow. Adios for now. Get some sleep. Have some tasty desserts or something if you're going to eat something else. I don't know what you're going to do, but whatever you do, have some fun, and we will see you tomorrow night, everybody. This has been another Smark Out moment, and we are being counted out.